Hello everyone, my name is Christina and in this video I'm going to be sharing with you the common mistakes that people make when they're writing their medicine personal statement and how you can avoid those mistakes. The first one is start early. Most people don't start their personal statement early enough. I recommend starting at the end of year 12, just after mock exams. That's a perfect time to start because no one else is doing it. If you don't start early, you'll end up leaving it till last minute and that will just make things so much more stressful. So definitely number one is start early. Now this one a lot of people kind of advise against, but I think reading other people's personal statements will give you so much inspiration. I read quite a few other personal statements that I found online and some other people's personal statements from YouTubers and stuff, and it honestly gave me a lot of inspiration. I highly recommend you guys do it as well. Honestly, it gives you so much more inspiration when you have an idea of how other people have talked about their experiences and what you can kind of just gain inspiration. Do not try and copy it word for word. There are plagiarism checks that UCAS does to make sure that your personal statement is original and it is unique, so do not copy anything but just gain inspiration. There are a bunch of personal statements that I found online just by googling medicine personal statement UK, and then a bunch came up in Google Images. Probably a big one. Focus on what you learned. So this applies to almost everything: work experience, volunteering, books, trips, literally everything that you've done to learn about medicine. Each time you've done something, so say volunteering with the elderly, what did you actually learn from that experience? This is what they want to hear you talk about. Don't make generalized statements. So don't say things like, I love my work experience on respiratory medicine. That doesn't really tell them anything about what you've learned and what skills you've developed. So don't make just general statements. I love my work experience. I love volunteering with the elderly. They want to know what you've learned. Did you learn about teamwork? Did you learn about commitment to medicine? Did you learn about how hard it is, for the doctors to do long hour shifts? Talk about what you specifically have learned. This is the key thing here. Focus on what you've learned. Do reflect on what you've learned. So this is kind of similar to the last one, but slightly different. So with reflection, you need to really have a think about what you've done and give reasons why. So here's an example. Shadowing doctors on my work experience really inspired me. But why? Why did it inspire you? What exactly did they do? Did a patient say something that stuck with you? Did you see certain skills being demonstrated by the doctors and the healthcare team? What exactly happened that made it stand out to you and made it inspire you? You really need to show them that you're aware of the skills and qualities that people need in medicine to become doctors. So just listing what you've done and listing what you saw will not impress medical schools. You need to talk about what you've learned. I've kind of touched on this, but don't write a list of your achievements or a list of the things that you've done without an explanation of why you did them, what you learned from them, or just any reflection. Again, they don't really care about all your achievements. They want to know what you've learned. This is because they want people with really good qualities and skills that are useful in medicine. So if you say, I played hockey for 7 years. That's fine, but we don't know if you have, teamwork. We don't know if you have leadership. We don't know if you have, commitment, because you haven't explained that you have those things. Each thing that you mentioned, not just in your extracurricular activities, but work experience, volunteering, always give a reason why. Honestly, this is the big one, guys. You need to reflect. Try not to use cliches, so things like, I've always wanted to do medicine, I've always had a passion for people, I love science. Stuff like that isn't very original. Medical schools want to see something different. That's what will make you stand out, if you say something really original and unique to you. So then don't go into too much detail. You only have a side of A4, so if that limits how much space you have to talk about other things which are equally, if not more important. So yes, certain things you've done might be really big and really important, so you want to spend a bit more time talking about them. That's great and that's good, but definitely try and have a balance. So if you've learned lots of amazing skills from one event, then it makes sense to talk about that one a little bit more, because skills and qualities that you've learned from that experience, which are the most important thing to medical schools, you've obviously got a lot more from that experience. So that's okay if you want to talk about that certain thing a bit more, but definitely try and have a balance. Don't talk about one thing a bit too much. So I'm going to put two examples on the screen, one here and one here. Pause the video now if you want to read them. They have a similar word count, a similar character count. One of them obviously conveys so much more information in such a short space. So this is how important it is to be concise. These two paragraphs are pretty much telling you the same thing, but one of them just gives you so much more detail and so much more information, which is valuable to medical schools. But you can achieve this just by redrafting, going over your personal statement multiple times. So do try to tell a story. This isn't like an essential, but don't list the things that you've done, like I did this. Try and kind of build a story. I recommend having like a roughly chronological order to it. So maybe when you're a bit younger, what inspired you to do medicine, what you did over the years to try and learn about medicine, and then kind of what you're doing in sixth form and stuff. So I think it's best to have just a rough chronological order of the things that you've done, and just because that paints a bit more of a picture and a bit more of a story, which is a bit more interesting to read. So you definitely need to plan your personal statement. With your plan, you definitely want to have an introduction. I recommend, so roughly 5 to 10%, not too long, just to quickly kind of introduce why you want to study medicine, something to capture the reader's attention. I recommend, like, when you first discovered that you wanted to do medicine, or a really standout moment on your work experience, just something to capture the reader's attention. And then moving on to the body of your personal statement. This is most of it, so like 60 odd percent. And in this section, you want to talk about all the things that you've done to learn about medicine. So this is pretty much going to be most of your personal statement. So you want to focus on why medicine, what you've done to learn about medicine, all of your work experience. Literally, this is going to be most of it. This is kind of showing why you should study medicine, what you've done to learn about it, why you're a great candidate. And then your conclusion. So this is kind of the last bit. So I recommend like roughly a third, maybe like 30% or so. And this is where you're kind of finalizing why you'd be a good doctor. So again, you can kind of talk about the qualities and skills that you have that make you a really good candidate for medicine. In your conclusion, you just want to wrap up what makes you the right candidate to study medicine, what makes you a good doctor, what skills do you have, what things have you learned. And Oxbridge. So if you're thinking of applying to Oxford or Cambridge, so I recommend having a sentence or two just talking about why you want to apply to Oxford and Cambridge. Other universities won't look down on this. They understand that Oxford and Cambridge are quite prestigious, and you'll need to explain why you want to go there. And I've got a link in the description actually for Oxford. They talk about what they're actually looking for in a medicine personal statement. So if you're thinking of Oxford or Cambridge, definitely check out that link in the description box below. Definitely check out my blog post on personal statements. I go into a bit more detail, and obviously you can just make notes on all the things that I've talked about. Let me know in the comments what other types of videos you'd like to see from me. I've got loads of ideas coming, but I'd love to know what you guys want to see. And that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Bye. My name is Christina, and in the